Stephen, how you doing, mate?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Sorry, we're running a few minutes behind,
No, that's all right.
mate. The live show overrun slightly with a couple of delays, so I'm playing a little bit of catch up, but we're there.
Oh no, that's all. It's all good. I always do like a little bit of office work, like when I get home, anyway. So I was able to catch up with a few bits.
Oh, mate, fair play. Well, listen, so grateful for your time, mate. Thanks for jumping on. And look, we're gonna jump straight in. So, um,
Perfect.
tell me where does your passion for food come from, and did you know from a young age that you wanted to be a chef?
Well, I always enjoyed eating. I think that was like always a good start. But both my parents were in the industry, and it kind of just felt like second nature being around like commercial kitchens or like being part of hospitality. I've always loved like cooking for family and friends from like a young age, and just seeing how food brings people together. Um, was always something that I wanted to pursue.
Yeah, I love that. I'm half Greek Cypriot, so for me, food and sitting around a table. I grew up sitting around a table, big Greek family.
Yeah.
Food was part of our culture. Now I'm a massive foodie, so I was buzzing to know that you'd be able to come on, and obviously wanted to catch that. So your parents were in hospitality, so that was a route that you always thought, I want to go down and get into
It was
that.
always like a backup option, 100%, just because I could see, I mean, it's not an easy industry, but I knew that like my parents had been there, done that, and been like successful in there, and that was
Yeah,
kind of like my inspiration to pursue that. But I think like a lot of young boys, I wanted to be like a footballer. So when that didn't work out, I could fall back on hospitality.
yeah, fair play. You still play now?
I mainly do like charity games. To be honest, like it's hard work. Like my
Yeah.
fitness levels are so bad, and like running around for 90 minutes isn't good.
Yeah, I feel you, mate. I feel you. I used to play a lot myself, not so much now. Not so much. I'm getting on. But look, I want to talk. There's obviously a narrative out there, like working certainly within hospitality, especially in kitchens, can be extremely tough. Sometimes slightly maybe a toxic environment. Can you talk to me about your experience, especially as like a young chef in the industry, like first starting out? Is that talk to me a bit about the culture and
Yeah,
yeah,
I'd say I've been a chef for over 20 years, and when I started to where it is now as an industry, I mean, it's not perfect now, but the journey that the industry's been on is like astronomical. Like if you think now you can't even turn the TV channel over without seeing a cooking program or someone talking about food, or whether it's on YouTube or Instagram, like it's really blown up. And it all really started with like Jamie Oliver like sliding down the banister, like scooting around on his moped, and kind of making cooking fun. But for that, I kind of just saw the last bit of that sort of like toxic industry, where it was literally like you just you were there to be a slave basically, and if you didn't go along with it, you were out. And if you messed around with the wrong people, that was your CV done. You weren't going to get another job at a high level restaurant. And to see how that's changed over the years, I mean, part of me thinks like I wish I'd come into the industry now, because I do see like the benefits that these new chefs are getting. But then also, I'm really proud to be part of that change.
yeah, sure. And I guess so from that, like with that in that environment when you sort of first started out and where there was those challenging, like you said, that because you hear them stories, don't you? Of like I've
Mm.
spoken to a couple of people in the industry, you hear them stories about how it was so brutal and so ruthless within that sort of industry. And like talk to me about so when you first started out, some of the places that you worked at in the early stages. Talk to me a little bit about that
Yeah,
journey.
so I mean, my background's always been like country house hotels. So it's never been where a lot of the stories come from, like central London, like Michelin starred restaurants. I never delved into that, but there was still that culture of, you were working like 80, 90 hours. You were sworn at constantly. I did see chefs getting beaten up in the fridge. There's a lot of stories that have happened that almost just felt the norm. But like I go back, I always compare like restaurants to football, because I think there is that, like even if you look at football now, like Alex Ferguson was like tearing apart, footballers like back then. You know, it's not just our industry that there was that pressure cooker of almost using violence to get your own way. I'm sure a lot of industries can relate to that, and I think
Yeah,
it's just how they've changed. I think hospitality was almost like one of the last ones to change.
yeah, sure. Uh, Talk about Alex Ferguson. I hear you're a United fan. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm not saying that too loudly at the moment.
A little birdie told me before I was coming on, so he said, "You've got to mention that. You've got to mention that." We won't delve into that, mate. We won't delve into that. We'll leave that out. But no, I'm keen to as well. Like I said, being a big foodie. Talk to me about like obviously your journey through obviously starting your own restaurant and being involved in that in hospitality. But talk to me about March 2020. Obviously, hospitality was it's one of the industries hit the hardest by the global pandemic. But tell me about your mindset as a restaurateur at that time.
I was almost in disbelief, if I'm honest. Like there was so many changes happening so quickly that it was hard to keep up. And I mean, I still remember like sat round. We always do a briefing before service, so I think it was like a Friday night. We're fully booked, and then the announcement came that we had to close. I think Boris said like we need to close tonight, and we were like, does that mean that we can't do service tonight, or does that mean we can still do service? And literally, the feeling was so weird where we had like guests calling up to cancel. So we lost half the restaurant on cancellations because they didn't want to go out. They're too scared. And then we
Yeah,
picked up those cancellations because there's people just going out because they could see what was going to happen. They almost wanted that last supper, and it was just a
yeah,
surreal moment. And it was like just like a mix of emotions because you had all that going on. My team were asking me for answers that I didn't have at that stage. All we knew we had to close. We didn't know what was going to happen to them. We heard stories about it was like Gordon Ramsay sacking like 40 members of staff, which just adds to the fear on
yeah,
that day. And it didn't really get any easier as time went on. We're almost getting the answers after like a couple of months after we needed them.
yeah, sure. And and how do you then? I guess, like I said, with the lack of communication that come from the government, but how
Mm.
do you then, you know, keep a team motivated and within that level of communication, I guess, with them? And what was that like? How did you,
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm a chef owner, so I see it from their point of view, and I think they respect that. And everything I do, it's for the team because I see
yeah,
them as such an integral part to what we are as a business, and I just think being open and honest about it. Sometimes it's not easy conversations, because we're talking to some guys that were having to go on to universal credit and others that were getting furlough. And, there's that big question, like, is that fair? You know, and I
yeah,
don't have, I can say it's not fair, but that doesn't solve their situation.
yeah,
And the only thing I could do was just try and be there for them, try and give advice because I was in the same situation as them. And I think the whole of the pandemic was like it's all down to individuals. For me, I've got 3 kids, so there was work to be done at home. My missus, she works in the care sector, so she was busy out and about. So our roles almost like completely reversed. Whereas we had other chefs like starting up their own businesses, like doing bakery goods, and really utilising their skills that way. And it was just there was no one shoe fits all. For
yeah.
what happened with the team, I think it was almost just like going back into survival, um, and
Individually,
seeing
just
what you could do to make money.
yeah. What sort of things did you do as well then during that time? Like you said, I guess obviously with your wife, where you've got how old are your kids? Was it homeschooling or what was that like?
Yeah, I mean, I tried my best at homeschooling. I probably did a terrible job, but my kids are like 12, 10, and 2.
Yeah,
So take that back. We literally had a newborn in lockdown. But what was difficult? I mean, what was actually really nice for me was spending that much time with my kids
yeah, yeah,
because
sure.
being a chef, you don't necessarily get those weekends off. My time is sometimes like Monday, Tuesday nights off. Where the kids are going to bed early, getting ready for school. So to be able to like go on cycle rides with them every morning and almost just being getting into that routine. I was going to bed at like 9 o'clock at night. I actually felt like almost like a normal person for for periods of lockdown. And it was just nice to connect to them. But everyone's got their own story. We've got a team of 8 chefs at the restaurant, and they all did something different. I heard about chefs doing like takeaway boxes, or finish at home stuff, and loads of people are like, why didn't I do that? But my situation was different. I just didn't have the time to do that, or the money to invest in that sort of project at that moment in time.
Yeah. You're right. I think, like you said, the amount of people I speak to on the show, and well, obviously the pandemic always comes into it somewhere. And some businesses thrive during that time, some businesses survive and whatnot. But like you said, I think ultimately it was just that case of everyone's individual situation. It was just a survival point of view, wasn't it? I run at the time. I was just running Fernballs, an events company, five-a-side football and golf and sport. It literally stopped completely. So mine and my wife's roles are reversed. Well, she's a solicitor, criminal law, so she was flat out, similar to you, jumped in on the home schooling for a bit. And mate, I'm definitely not a teacher.
No, me neither. It was difficult. I was just like, how do they do this every day? It gave me a lot of admiration for them, to be honest.
Yeah, mate, absolutely that. Yeah, I was like, mine were only. I've got twins today. It was like 4. I think reception year at the time, so I got away a little bit. But what was surprising then, the second time round, my wife ended up in. She was on furlough. She took voluntary furlough, and she ended up looking after the kids. They went back after 3 months. She was a solicitor. She was structured. She had things on the board and everything. Went back in. School email. Go, God, the kids have come on really well. Do that one up. I didn't get that email when they went back. So how about? But they did know how to make Cleftico. So every cloud.
That is a great skill.
There's a great exactly that. You mentioned about because I felt that as well, as much as the negative stuff that come out of COVID, there was obviously some positive in the sense, like especially family time. Being able to spend that time. I was the same, running different businesses. I'm always out and about and doing stuff. So having that time with them, I do look on that as a fond moment. But talk to me a little bit about work-life balance, because obviously I can imagine it must be a struggle, one bit as a business owner in general, but running in hospitality as a chef. How do you achieve that? Is that a difficult thing?
Yeah, like I think I touched on it earlier. I come from the industry, and I want to change the industry as well. So with Etch, we're just open Wednesday to Saturday, so the team get 3 days off, which I think is really important. It's probably not the 3 days that they would want. They're not getting Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but they're getting Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And although I don't get 3 days off, I think, the way I try and balance it out is like Sunday is family day. And then I'm normally doing like admin or trying to plan the week on the Monday, Tuesday to try and get as much done to give me that head start. But also, like food, what I've learned is, like I learn a lot from eating out. I think I said it as well earlier. Like I love eating and I love trying new food. So I just try and bring the family into that. If we have to go out for a meal on a Monday, Tuesday night, they don't mind that at all. It gets me out of the kitchen as well, so I'm not cooking for them. But I think it's almost easier with hospitality because, well, maybe it's not because I never switch off, but I'm able to bring them on the journey as well. If I'm part of a food festival, they come along, they experience that, and they see me on stage, and that they're part of that journey as well.
That's an amazing thing. I think that's something really important, because it's something I ask because I always struggle with it myself, like trying to. You just alluded to it then about switching off. I really struggle with that. I really struggle, and I guess try and be present in them moments, like when the kids are there, when you're there with the kids, trying to be present in the moment. Because if your brain's constantly on stuff, I find that generally quite difficult.
I find it hard to switch off from like admin. Like thinking about dishes and stuff like that. That's the fun part. But like, when you get so on top of like doing your job and you're just like, you don't want to let it slip, and it's a competitive feeling. But you are right. You just have to stop at some point and just be like, look, turn your phone off. Like, I've been doing
Yeah,
this thing recently where I'm just like deleting my social media apps.
yeah,
I
good
don't know if
shout.
like, so I literally go on like post, and then I'll just like delete it, and then won't go back on for like a day or 2 days. I just find it really clears my head, because I don't know, like I always get a notification, then I go into it, then I'm scrolling, then I'm just like, I'm almost just
Waste.
wasting time. Yeah, and it's almost like dangerous doing that. But I'm that sort of person though. Like as soon as I click onto the emails, like I was doing some emails before talking to you, I
Yeah,
then have
yeah,
that competitive urge to like just get on top of it, like it starts snowballing.
yeah, yeah,
And I think it's just trying to dedicate the right time. Like now is the right time because my kids aren't about, and then
yeah,
trying to free myself up when they are about.
yeah. It is. It's look, a balance is a balance is what works for you. And I always ask around that sort of thing because actually balance, because you obviously your passion is in food and you obviously love that as well. So you love what you do. So
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I think that's what I do. I love podcasting. I guess is one of my favourite out of all the businesses I run. I love this. I love the conversation. I love being involved in doing stuff like this. But I think because you do, it's okay to be excited about it, and it's okay to be involved. And because hopefully I'll be able to show the kids that, and you inspire them to show that choose a path that you love doing, choose a career that you love doing, and this is, and you get that satisfaction and enjoyment from that, and that's okay to show that as well.
yeah.
I
I
think,
really feel as well. Like the more I put in, the more I get out as
yeah,
well. Like to it. And if I didn't feel like that, then of course I'd take my foot off the gas. But
yeah,
I honestly feel like if I can do some, like catching up or pushing on ahead, then I'll do that because I still feel young and energetic.
love that. Good man. Well, I'd love to just talk a little bit about obviously some of the career highlights and stuff, but like, obviously MasterChef. We couldn't come on and not talk about sort of MasterChef. Talk about that moment, and it was life changing for you. What that experience. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was just. I mean, it's almost 10 years ago now. It's 10 years, like next year, so it's really flown by. And I think for me, I just wanted to do it justice. So after winning, there's a lot of. I mean, I'm almost like a little celebrity for like a day or 2 days after, and then you literally drop down, to a Z list after that. But it's just trying to do it. I didn't want to just do the same job I was doing. I really wanted to grab the opportunity and open my own restaurant, and that journey in itself took 3 or 4 years after the show. It's not easy putting together a business plan and convincing people to invest money in your idea. It's very much like the Dragon's Den scenario. But
Yeah,
I remember being on the show, and it's just very, very surreal. I've always loved competitions, like cooking competitions, but normally they're behind closed doors. So if you
yeah,
do well, you can sing and shout about it. But if you do badly, I'm not telling anyone. That's
yeah,
going to happen. But the hard thing with MasterChef is it's being aired to like 6 million people or whatever it is, and they can see your every move. And if you make a mistake, then that's normally like the part that they want to capture. But for me, the pressure was really on the beginning rounds rather than the end. And that sounds strange, but I think it's just like, again, back to football. As soon as you're like in the quarter final of the FA Cup, and you're not expected to win, but you're expected to
yeah,
progress. It's a great feeling. You can then enjoy the moment and take it for what it is. And that's how I felt in the competition. I felt then I could actually give it my all and not worry about losing.
yeah. Love that. Love that. Yeah, and like I say, and you certainly done it justice. And as like you said, as you come out and you and created what you have done with Etch, was that process of like did you have to pitch the idea to a lot of people? Was it the first people you got in front of that bought into the idea and the vision, or what was that
Yeah, I
process like?
mean, it was a tough process because you're dealing with people that are almost like sharks. They're used to like investing and used to getting their own way. And like when you
Yeah,
try and sell the dream about a restaurant and you're trying to sell it to people that want to make money, it's not the connection's not there, because if you want to make
yeah,
money, you're not going to invest in a restaurant. So
yeah,
I literally must have spent about 18 months going down that road. And then it was only, I met my business partner, who's still my business partner now, a guy called Steve Barry, who sees it from the other side. So he was, we came up with a plan together, was like, actually, what could we give them apart from like dividends or, like all the things that you normally get from a company? The main things are like they're coming along the journey with me. They're part of that restaurant experience. The dividends aren't there in the restaurant. We just keep reinvesting in ourselves. But, they're able to come in and get a discount, bring family and friends and say that they're part of that journey. And I think it was building that up rather than, I think my first business pitch was like, I'm willing to give away like 25% of the company, but I wanted like £1 million. It was classic Dragon's Den. I look back on it now and I was like, why did I do that? Because I was so obsessed with the 75%. Do you know what I mean? Whereas actually, as long as I've got control and I'm the director of the company and I'm making the decisions and I'm the only one, then, those things, it's just about getting the balance right. And I feel like we've got a great team around us at Etch that they're not breathing down my neck and saying, why have you put that dish on or why have you done this? They're taking it for what it is and appreciating it and loving what we're doing. And I like they're great people to have behind me.
Yeah, because I guess, like you said, it's especially someone like, because you obviously that creativity that you obviously love, part of running a restaurant and creating the amazing dishes that you do, that's where your passion lies, and that creativity and coming up with new dishes and something different that's out there. It's getting those people, I guess, like you say, to buy into that vision. Because I spoke to someone within hospitality and said, like you said, to make money out of a restaurant, it's so tough. Like with the margins, things are like, one table doesn't turn up, and that can affect the whole evening service. Or
yeah, I don't think. I mean, I know it's slowly getting out there, but I sometimes think that the general public don't realise, like how valuable our guests are. And I know that works both ways. We could appreciate them a lot more, and we try our best to do that. But also, there's a lot of people out there that are just happy, like not to ring up and say that they're not coming anymore, or just to say, like just to give us the heads up, because like, especially for us, we're like a 40 cover restaurant and we're only open 4 days a week. So a table of two is actually really valuable to us. And yeah, I think you can make money in restaurants, but you've got to make that decision that you're then not going to reinvest in your business. You're not then reinvesting in the team. Something's gonna fall, because if you're taking stuff out of it, I think you've got to be someone like Salt Bay, who was, you either love him or hate him, but his concept smashed it because he was making millions.
Yeah, sure.
And then people complain about it because a restaurant shouldn't be making millions.
What at home? Who cooks at home? You or
Laura, my wife, does. Yeah, I leave her in charge of that. I quite like being a commis chef sometimes. Like I just like it, like chop an onion, do this, do that. But likewise, it flips because she hates it if I taste her bolognese or something. Before she served it, she thinks I'm getting too involved. But I think you've always got to have someone in charge of the kitchen, haven't you? Like,
always.
I can't just turn up on a Monday night and not have ordered anything, and then like take all the credit. So I just try and help out as much as I can.
When you say, you obviously, like you said, you love food, you love eating out, and part of, I guess, like research and stuff like that. Where's one of your favourite places to go in Brighton other than that, obviously your place?
Yeah, I'd say like a competitor to Etch would be somewhere like Little Fish Market, which is just down the road. So they do a taster menu just of fish.
Yeah,
I've been there a couple of times, really love it. And I never see it as competitors in the restaurant game, because it's not like a bar where you go to the same guy. Like, part of food is like diversity, it's eating in different places and kind of like opening your horizons, whether it's a 3-star meal where you've saved up for a special occasion, or, like we've got a great kebab house literally 2 doors down from Etch as well, which I'd highly recommend, which people find strange because like why would I be recommending a kebab house? But it is actually banging. Like they do a great kebab.
Love.
But where at? I mean, 64 degrees is always a good one. There's a place called the Set. You've got Market Hall, which has got a great collection of restaurants. I just think the Brighton and Hove food scene is quite unique in the fact that there's a lot of chef owners.
Yeah,
You
sure.
actually, the people that are cooking and creating the dishes are the people, running the company.
Yeah,
And I know that sounds strange, but if you go to other towns or cities, that's not always the case.
yeah, sure, sure. No, I think you're right. There's an amazing, for me, definitely there's an amazing restaurant scene in Brighton. Again, me being a foodie and not playing as much football now, putting on a couple of pounds. I love me food, mate. I love me food. But it's amazing. Well, look, as we're sort of coming to it, tell me what's the future hold for you? Because obviously you've got obviously Etch and obviously got Steven Edwards at the Bingham as well now over in
Mm.
Richmond. How's that going over there? What's
Yeah, good. I was literally there today and back there tomorrow. I should have just stayed over, to be honest. Don't know
yeah,
why
yeah,
I came back. But, it's just splitting my time between the two restaurants. I really enjoy that, working with two head chefs. And, it's really about not just creating the dishes, but creating the vision, like how is the service? How can we improve the restaurant environment? How can we improve everything that we do? I really
yeah,
enjoy that challenge, as well as trying to make them both successful businesses as well. What's next is I'd love to have a pub. I've been saying it for 2 or 3 years, but the
really,
time's just not been right. Like, especially with the staffing crisis, it just, I don't want that on my plate at the
yeah,
moment. I'd rather like make Etch and the Bingham the best they can be at this moment in time. But I'd love to have a pub in the near future. I just think it almost like creates, completes the triangle, because Etch is
yeah,
very much taster menu. It's all about the food there. Whereas the Bingham, it's a la carte foods, the views and the setting there are just phenomenal. Like you're on the outskirts of London, but you're right next to the River Thames, and on a nice sunny day, even like today, it's just lovely, like to see people out on the terrace, like eating.
yeah,
Whereas we don't get that at Etch. It's just the kitchen and the chefs that are the main focus.
yeah. So, like a country pub? What you
Yeah,
thinking?
100%. I want somewhere where it's like Scotch eggs, pork pies, like proper ale in a, like one of those metal tankers. I want it. I want it to be like quality, but not
Yeah,
pretentious. I want it to be a pub. I don't want it to be like a pub that's really a restaurant.
yeah, yeah, sure. Love that. I love and that, listen to you talk. You can tell like with that creative, like you obviously from Etch to obviously the Bingham and as you're talking about a thing, but that I guess that you just got that clear vision in your head. It seems like you've got a clear vision of this is what I want to achieve for each one. And I'm sure as you've alluded to, like each service every day is a learning curve, and you're constantly learning, trying to tweak and bespoke and make that whole experience that little bit
No,
better.
you've hit the nail on the head with that. It is literally fine tuning both businesses, and I think the mistake I made at the beginning of going to the Bingham was like just expecting the same similar challenges that we had at Etch and the Bingham, but expecting the same answer. And that was the learning curve for me, because they're very different businesses, and it's
Yeah,
really just trying to work out what is best for each one of them separately, because it's not the same, like shoe fits all. They're different demographics and different expectancies, and that's why I say it is a venue at the Bingham. People go there and not even know that there's a restaurant, which is quite nice in some ways, but you've kind of got to realign those expectations that people will be like half an hour late for a table. Whereas at Etch, that just doesn't happen. Like people are like there, they come on time, and that's when the experience starts.
yeah, sure. And do you as much as obviously the cooking and the creating the dishes and the vision for that, do you enjoy the business side of it as well?
Yeah, I do. I think I've really got into it over the last couple of years. I mean, sometimes it scares me because just when you see figures, especially after what we've been through, it is like, are we living on a knife edge? But then I do see, I'm a positive person. I do like to look at the positives and think, actually, we can come out of this good. I feel like we've got a good business plan, and I think we can move forward. But it's even now, like, no one can predict the future, but generally, like I always look back to 2017, 2018, it just seemed a lot easier to predict. It's like, here's the figures we had from last year. That should be what we're going to be doing this year with a little bit more. Whereas now I'm like, I've got no idea. It's almost like damage limitation. But again, being positive, it's like, how do we still move forward as a business? How do we reinvest in ourselves? How do we make ourselves different from everyone else? So it's still exciting having those ideas, but just being more creative in a different way.
Yeah, I love that. Right, look, mate, we're coming to the end. I'd have to ask you as a chef, and I'm sure you get asked this a million times, but what if you could have your last dish to eat? What would it be?
I mean, it normally changes all the time. Like I went through this phase of loving pizza or loving McDonald's, but at the moment it's like steak and chips, like and béarnaise sauce. That's what I fancy at the moment. So I don't know, like something like char grilled, like the steak char grilled, Wagyu beef would be lovely. Béarnaise, I'll probably have a heart attack after eating it, the way I'm creating this in my head. But it wouldn't matter if it's my last supper anyway.
Yeah, you take that.
But like chips, they've got to be French fries, I think, with steak. You can't have, I don't like these like chunky chips. I think they're...
You're not a fan of chunky chips?
No, I'm not. I want them like thin and crispy.
Nice. And you go to McDonald's, you don't mind a McDonald's?
Yeah, I love McDonald's. I'm not like ashamed to say it. Again, people... Like the same with the kebab house, like people are just like shocked when I say it, but I love to think my diet is varied, and I like that about it. You know, I can appreciate food for what it is. I'm not, you know, I always look at like value as well. Like if I pay money and I don't feel like I've got the value, and I know that's easy for me to say, like having a restaurant that charges a bit of money, but I do think we give our guests value. You know, for what you get and what you pay, and you're there for 3 hours and you're really taken care of, there is value in that, just the same as like McDonald's charging like £5.50 for a meal. I see value in that as well.
Yeah, I love that. And for me, obviously at Etch and places like that where you pay that premium, but it's not just about the food, it is about the whole experience, isn't it? That's what you create.
100%. Yeah, from the moment like you make the booking all the way through to trying to make your next reservation with us, like that's quite a big time scale in there that we have to be on our game. Like we're putting that pressure on ourselves, and you know, not every business is like that. You know, sometimes they just want to grab your money and give you some food. Like, but I really think we care and go the extra mile, which I think is really important, especially nowadays where people are a little bit, you know, like there's some businesses out there that are really like quite stressy. You know, they almost like seem like they're not looking after their guests. And I think now is the time to look after them because everyone's feeling a little bit stressed and needing a hug almost.
Mate, absolutely. We all need that.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm so grateful for you jumping on tonight. And I've wanted to meet and chat with you for such a long time, and it's amazing what you've achieved, obviously with Etch and the Bingham, and watch your journey and continue to grow, and it's fascinating. But look, we're going to finish up with our quick fire questions, if I can, mate. So, what one piece of advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
I think it's not to be as cheeky. I was a cheeky chappy, and working in the kitchens, I think we touched on it earlier, they're quite like hostile places. I just got kicked out of a couple of kitchens quite early on. Just thinking, you know, like I thought I knew everything already. So it'd just be to get my head down, focus. And I see it now with teenagers coming in. I don't think they realise the opportunity that they've got. And those opportunities soon run out if you're not careful.
Yeah, love that. Who's been your biggest inspiration throughout your life and why?
I'd say it's my parents, like both of them, just because they've been there like from the beginning, but also in their careers. Like, you know, my dad was like a general manager of a hotel. My mum was a housekeeper. So they weren't chefs, but they're part of the industry. And they were always ashamed almost of like what they, you know, being part of hospitality, whereas I'm really proud of it. And even though they tried to put me off, I've loved proving them wrong, that it can be a successful career.
Love that. Could you recommend a book or a podcast to our listeners that maybe has had an impact on you?
Yeah, 100%. Like one of my first cookbooks I got, and it's a little bit niche. It was a book called Essence by a chef called David Everett Mateus, and he's a 2-star chef from Cheltenham. And it's just everything about the book was like so ahead of its time. You know, I was 20, so it would have been, I don't know, 2005 or 2006 that it came out, and everything about it was just so inspirational. It was just different. I think Gordon Ramsay did the foreword on it, but it's what you call like a chef's book to get your creativity going. Like he's doing things like acorn panna cottas, and like, you know, on like I think it's called the coxcomb. I mean, I've never even cooked with it. You know, the little thing on top of the cockerel heads, you know, the red spiky thing. He was like braising that down and making a dish from that. It's just almost like ahead of its time, because now, you know, whenever we go through periods of hardship, there's always chefs trying to create dishes out of underutilized produce. So whether that is acorns and coxcombs, then that's what it was. But I just love the way that he was able to create like fine dining from those ingredients that you just see, you know, lying around.
Love that. Mate, finally, what is your one rule for living a fulfilled life?
I think positivity is my biggest thing. No matter what happens, I always try and put a positive spin on it. And sometimes that gets me into trouble because I'm almost like a Labrador bouncing like from left to right. You know, like I take on challenges like, yeah, let's do this, let's do that. But honestly think like that's the best way to be, like, because otherwise I think it just sets your mindset in the wrong direction, and then less opportunities will come, and it takes you down a completely different path.
I echo that. I love it. Look, I'm similar. I'm always optimistic, positive. Like you say, I'm a yes man. So say, that'd be a good idea. Yeah, I'm in. Let's do that. And I think about it later. Go, why did I say yes to that? But look, like, I always believe life's an opportunity, and grab them, you know.
Yeah, 100%.
Mate, listen, I know you've done a service tonight, and you've come straight home and jumped up here, and I'm really, really grateful for supporting this, and it's been an amazing. Look, number 13, I'm over halfway now, so mate,
13 is my lucky number as well. So that was when I saw that come up, I was like, wow. And yeah, it's honestly the latest interview I've ever done, so that goes in the record books as well for me.
Hey, we're winning. Listen, I'm so grateful. I'm going to come down and see you at Etch soon, and it'll be great to catch up. Mate,
thanks for the invite legend as well. I've loved it.
Oh, mate, been an absolute legend, and thank you so much. And I'll catch up with you soon.
Good luck. Good luck with the rest.
Thanks a lot. And that is a wrap. Bye. Thank you.